Meet Babita, 52-year-old from Vancouver. She has that unwavering passion for fitness, dedication as a working mom, and indomitable spirit that inspires us all. A hero of her own life. Let's talk to her. All right, so thank you so much for taking out time. I'm going to welcome my first guest on this podcast series. Today we have Babita on this call. So she's from Vancouver. You have already seen a brief introduction segment for Babita. But yeah, welcome. Welcome, Babita.
Thank you
Welcome
so much for
today on this
having me. I
series.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking out time. It's lovely having you here, and it's all pleasure is all ours. Thank you for being the first guest in this podcast series. Before we begin this episode, the theme for today's episode is age is just a number. And we're going to circle around this as we proceed in our conversations. But before we get to that, the whole idea why we have set up this podcast series is that I've been a firm believer of the fact that books are very important to read. It kind of grooms a person's personality, character. But I think something which is very important for everyone to learn from is each other's experiences. So we hear a lot of podcasts, or information out there on YouTube or other informational channels where we learn a lot from celebrities. But this series of podcasts is going to feature people like you and me who are hustling through their day-to-day routines. They have their daily tasks. They have a family to take care of. They don't have a lot of chain of helpers to help them, but they're going after one goal. They're trying to do something in their lives other than just making bread and butter. And that's the segment. That's what is this podcast about. So I think in interest of our audience, we would love to know more about what you do, what Babita is all about in terms of her work, in terms of her life, passion. Yeah.
So, the first thing that I'm going to mention is I grew up as a Indo-Canadian woman, not having fitness as a focus in my life. Both my parents were working, middle class people. And ironically, I actually used to get my dad to write me a note to try to get out of PE because I hated it. So
Mm-hmm.
growing up, fitness, I was never in any sports, or it was never something that was a focal point in my childhood, or even my mom and dad's. I never saw both of my parents exercising. I think my mom was a little bit more in tune, but dad, no, he was at work and his relaxation was watching
Mm-hmm.
TV.
Mm-hmm.
So it was never a focal point in my life. Fitness started to become important to me at the age of 21 as I got older. I was in a marriage, and even then, actually, during that time, don't forget that I'm 52. So in the 80s, it was never really an important thing for women to do. All they focused on was being skinny.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in an era where the focal point wasn't about your health or fitness or being strong. It was about models like Kate Moss, thinner than thin. And so every girl that I knew in my circle was focusing on just being skinny. Being healthy was never a priority. So as I worked through my decades of fitness, I became very focused on just cardio. It was just skinny, skinny, skinny. And the thinner I was thinking I would be happier. To be honest with you, it just creates like a downward spiral because you're not really
Yeah.
healthy. I
Yeah.
was super skinny at one stage in my life. I remember being about 105,
Mm-hmm.
still never being really happy because that point of like thinking, oh, I achieved that goal, but my nails were brittle, my hair would fall out. I looked on the outside amazing, like at that
Yeah.
time where
Mm-hmm.
fitness, thin and being like skinny was a focal point, but
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't truly healthy. And so I
Wow.
went through all these cycles of dieting and using, like, I remember one time, even fast forward, um, being a little bit older and going on Herbalife, like using a supplement. When I was already thin, I was using
Mm.
a thermogenic to get thinner.
Uh-huh.
And the craziness that women go through. I mean, I don't know too much about men. I can only speak on behalf of women because I'm a woman. We are
Hmm.
so focused on just the exterior. We're not thinking about like health, your bones, and all the other factors that go into the importance of
Longevity.
fitness, longevity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I became a single mom at, my son was 17 days old, so it was very young. Came to Vancouver. I moved from Calgary, and I had a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. And I always used fitness as a tool, as an outlet to release stress. It was almost like food for my soul. So back then, middle class working moms struggling, making ends meet. So I couldn't have these expensive gym memberships. I
Mm.
would get up and go to my son's school and run. I'd go on the track and make sure I'm running. And I remember
Wow.
buying these Windsor Pilates videos. And
Mm.
no matter what
Yeah.
happened, I would, when Samuel was sleeping, or I'd find time to do them at home, pop in the DVD. Back then it was DVDs. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would do these Windsor Pilates videos. And I always maintained some sort of fitness regime in my life. And I
Right.
know it's a struggle, but I was like working full time. I had a little child to come home, cook, clean, take them to the park, do all those duties. But somewhere in that day, I would find time for fitness. So
Mm.
for me, it became an outlet. Just cardio, I don't think is the answer to really a full fitness life. I think you
Uh-huh.
definitely need a balance now that I'm older and I've experienced more platforms of fitness. I
Of course.
definitely don't think it's just one aspect. So I decided to do compulsive running. I
Mm-hmm.
was hitting Fitness World in Georgia downtown because I used to work downtown, and I
Right.
would do compulsive cardio. I had a gym membership, never
Mm.
touched weights in my life, do compulsive cardio 6 days a week. Like I was compulsive. In the summer, I would do the grouse grind and I actually did it in 38 minutes. And that was just because
Uh,
I had so much cardio that I'd mastered it. So doing something like that, whatever you train at, whether it be yoga or running or weightlifting, after a while you get good at it. It's just
right.
natural. So
Right.
I mastered that. I was like running, and then I would go for long hikes or walks. And when later on in my late 40s, actually, I was 47 years old. And my girlfriend said to me, "You're so good at running. Why don't you do a marathon?" And
Yeah.
I thought to myself, it never came to me myself. I thought to myself, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I could
So
do it.
I
Yeah.
I can do it. So I
Yeah.
decided to at 47 train for a marathon. I
Mm.
did half a marathon. I'm a certified yoga teacher
Right.
and I do Indian head massage. So that's my profession. But what I decided to do was run a marathon. So from March till September, in 2018, I started in 2017. No, I started in 2018 and I decided to run Burnaby Lake every single day, 7 days a week.
Mm.
And even then, I hadn't mastered balance. I still was compulsive. I have that nature, A type, compulsively doing something. So I was doing yoga. I was doing the training for the marathon. It was a lot. And
Right.
before I left for a trip for India, I decided to run 24 kilometers in 2.5 hours. And I actually, a
Wow.
marathon is 22, a half a marathon is
Right.
22
Right.
kilometers. So I actually exceeded that. And the reason why I could do things like that is because I focused on one aspect and just chiseled it, worked at it. I trained for it. And so, whatever you do in life, whatever kind of fitness, you're going to master it. It took me till my late 30s, sorry, going closer to my 40s to really understand what healthy fitness regimes were. It includes
Right.
your diet, it includes a balanced level of fitness, and it
Yeah.
includes rest. I wasn't resting enough. It's
Right.
very important to take days
Yes.
off. I have no problem with aging. I just want to age gracefully.
Yes.
I've never been a person that thinks that aging is a negative thing.
Mm.
We're born to age,
Yeah.
but I wanted to do it with like strength. I don't want
Yeah.
to be that person on medication or like
Right.
struggling or very dependent on someone else. I believe the body is like a car. It's just common sense to me. If you can drive the car running on empty, no, you can't. You
Yeah,
need
you
to
can.
keep fueling it. So if I fuel the body and I
Mm.
take care of it, it's going to give me what I put into it back.
Yeah.
I started the yoga. I was excessively standing at work. I worked for a courier company, and I was standing 15 hours a day, like standing on the train, standing at work, standing, coming home, taking care of my son, cooking, cleaning. With excessive standing, I started getting plantar fasciitis in my feet, and because I couldn't stand very much, I was kind of leaning in one side on the hip, and I started getting chronic pain on the hip. And it got to the point so bad I couldn't put my feet down. And me, kind of like that person, no, I'm not going to give up. I kept trying to keep going through this
Going for it.
discomfort,
Yeah.
working and wanting to be like this person that pleases my employer. I finally just shut down, and my feet were so sore I couldn't put them down. So I had to go on sick leave. And as a
Okay.
result of my sick leave, I walked into a walk in clinic, and I was blessed to meet a doctor that was a yogi. And
Mm.
he kept saying to me, go do yoga. And my narrow mind, my narrow thinking was yoga is easy. It's
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
ballerinas do. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
going to fix me. I need to do like more physical training. So for a year, I didn't listen to the doctor. I did everything: cortisone shots. I did other aspects of massage, physio. Nothing helped me. And then one day, just here at Highgate near our complex where the gym is, I decided to do a yoga class. And I walked into a studio, Y Yoga, and I accidentally went to the front of the class. I didn't even know that the mirrors are the front. I
Yeah.
went in as a new student. It was, I walked in not knowing, had no idea background of yoga, walked in, absolutely sucked at it, but I fell in love instantly. It was this
Mm.
instant passion. And the passion was, it was testing my ego. It was,
Yeah.
I sucked at it. I wasn't good suddenly at
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
And right that very second, I decided, I'm going to do this until I'm amazing at it. Then I spent like weeks and months and years just doing 3 classes a day and just compulsive at it because of my nature. And I realized, no, I was actually sitting in the studio in an Impasana room with another teacher. And I realized, no, this is not how you master it. It's not about excessively doing the classes.
Right.
I was doing the classes so excessively that one day I exhausted myself, and I finally had the realization of the gift of yoga, and I opened my third eye. I remember that day very specifically. I went home and I said to my mom, my great grandfather was a yogi, and I said, oh my goodness, like there is something beyond it. I felt it today.
Yeah.
And it was because I actually was, the reason I felt something a little deeper is for the first time in my life, I actually relaxed the body. I shut
Oh,
off the mind, and I was totally relaxed and connected. And that's a different podcast altogether, the depth of yoga and
of
the
course.
meditation aspect. But I started experiencing that and started chasing that feeling. And then that teacher said to me, no, it's like a butterfly. It'll come to you, you welcome it. It goes, let it go, but never
Mm.
chase. Just be in the present moment. And I'm so glad that I got into yoga before I got into weightlifting. And we'll get back to the reason why, is because the whole experience of yoga just humbled me. I went
Right.
to the temple, the Sikh temple with my parents all the time. But, you know, unfortunately, parents don't tell their kids, to sit down. Well, my parents used to say, sit down and listen, but we were kids. We never really focused at church
Yeah.
and,
None of us
and
do
temples.
actually. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
busy playing with other kids
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
being kids. So I never experienced that sense of peace at a temple or anywhere else. You're busy being like a robot. You're going to work, you're interacting with other people. So the studio was the first place I really realized how to quiet the mind and
Mm.
connect the
Mm.
mind with the body, and everything interconnected. So I started really becoming passionate about that. And that's what branched me off to be a yoga teacher. I didn't want to go back to my job. So I took the teacher training, I did the Kids Foundation, I did the yin teaching. And then I met my family doctor, and he said, it's not enough. You need to start doing some weightlifting.
Right.
So the only weight I'd ever really lifted was 3 pound. Actually, I have them here at home still, 3 pound and 5 pound dumbbells that I
I
used to
remember.
struggle with.
I
I
remember we
struggled.
had this conversation the
Yeah.
first time when I met you at the gym. The first time you were more of
Right.
yoga, and I was looking at you. I was like, "Oh man, this lady is amazing in yoga." I mean, look at her doing all that stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, so I had that little background on yoga, which kind of intrigued me to have that conversation with you. And I
Yeah.
remember you talking. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I went into, and I never lifted any weights. All I did was compulsively run and do my Pilates, and I struggled at lifting 3 to 5 pound dumbbells.
yeah,
And like in hindsight, I look at that and I think, oh my goodness, like I can't even understand that right now. So I walked into a gym. I went into the she fit side feeling really like, it's intimidating, insecure.
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
was doing. Went there and here I am. I remember 3 years ago feeling like, wow, I know what I'm doing because I started getting these newbie gains,
yeah,
feeling good. But I did not understand form. I was actually injured. I had a tennis elbow
yeah.
and I was working through it, still lifting heavier. And I got myself to a 17.5 dumbbell. And I remember doing like overhead, presses. And I remember not stopping, still trying to think, oh, I want to get to 20. Even though my
Yes.
body was telling me, listen, you've got
No,
tennis
don't do
elbow,
it. Don't do it.
don't
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
But my
yeah,
mind was saying, no, you must perform more. You must do better. You're not good enough at 17. You need to push harder.
yeah.
So I got to the point where I have a coffee cup here. I couldn't put my cup away in the cupboard.
I
My
know. I
elbow
know.
was hurting so much.
Yes.
And that was the place where I decided to hire a fitness trainer from Club 16, Jonathan Gonzalez.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. He is the one who taught me everything I know about weightlifting.
Hmm.
And so I worked with him and I hired a trainer. And I want to pause there and make people understand. We invest in like our nails, we invest in trips, we invest in material things, but we don't want to invest in a personal trainer, which is probably the best thing I ever invested in. You don't need that trainer forever, but they
Yeah.
give you the fundamental tools on how to work out properly. Form was so important to me coming from my teacher's background. It is so important to prevent injuries, to
Yes.
train properly, but yet people don't see the significance. I
They don't
work
see
in
the
my
value. They
Yeah,
they just
I'm
see
at a
that,
gym all day and I
yeah,
see people, they're not working out properly or they're
yeah,
not doing their yoga positions in a manner that is going to keep them safe. But they don't understand the importance of this investment. I am definitely a person that is pro hiring someone like a trainer. If I was going to go get my hair cut, would I cut it by myself at home? No, I'm not a
no,
hairdresser. I
yeah,
trust someone else to do it for me.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
same thing when it comes to a fitness background. It is
absolutely.
very important. So I worked with him and he taught me. I remember walking in and saying to him, I don't want to lift too much weight. I don't want to look like a man. I don't want to
Yeah, and,
get
and
too
and yeah,
muscular.
this was one of my questions because I mean, I see and I meet so many females out there in the gym, and they're like, there's a thought which is always with them that, hey, if I lift weights, I'll start looking like a man, right? And I always tell them, hey, it doesn't work like that. It's not. But yeah, I mean, what's your experience there? I mean, because yes, you exactly pointed to the right
I said
fear
the
there.
same thing. It was
Yeah,
it was a lack of education and the understanding of the weightlifting industry. I just assumed that if you lift more, all of a sudden men. I had no understanding of what weightlifting is about, the eating, the regime, nothing. I had
yeah,
nothing. So. It was just the lack of understanding and education. So
Mm.
I remember Jonathan kind of smirking because I'm sure he's heard it 1,000 times from so many clients, especially females. And I walked in and I just finished my marathon. So I was super lean. I was 120 pounds and feeling good about myself. And he put me through a workout and I sucked. And it was okay that I sucked, but I
Yeah, yeah.
sucked because that was an eye opener for me. Like,
Mm.
okay, I've nailed the cardio. I have this healthy heart and I nailed the flexibility. But what about the strength training? You
Yeah.
know, and it was like this light bulb moment. I realized I need this. I need to
Yeah.
have a balance.
Yes.
So I started working with him and he did hit and he taught me a little bit about cutting and bulking.
Hmm.
And we did we bulked together and I was struggling with that. I was struggling with eating more. I was a person that, to be honest with you, I'd struggled with body dysmorphia now that I look back at this because I always used to think thin is what I want to be, right? And when you're not nourishing the body enough, that can be very dangerous. You need, especially women, we need to be able to eat properly
So,
and feel
I'm
good
sorry to
in our
cut you there.
body.
Yeah, yeah, but just so that in interest of our audience, so what was your calorie consumption before before we
I,
start the next phase?
Before I started eating, I was on a health kick because I was running and I just was training for the marathon. So actually, funny because my son, he had started weight training, and I think he was probably about 17, 18 when he started hitting the gym. And I remember saying to him, "What's wrong with you? You're always going to the gym." Like he was just always focused on
Yeah,
his protein,
yeah.
but I didn't understand it. And so I decided to start doing his diet. He was eating chicken, rice, and broccoli. So he was doing it to lean up. And I started doing a lighter version of his meal
Mm,
because I was doing the
mm,
cooking. So I was cooking for both of us. And I thought, why am I doing something separate? He's eating something healthy. So I would be eating a third cup of rice, my chicken, and my broccoli, make a little stir
mm,
fry. And I'd have, at that time, I was doing the boiled eggs, avocado, and, a piece of toast, lots of water, and then doing like another chicken and broccoli at night and
mm,
eliminating the rice.
mm,
So that is what I was doing at the start of when I entered the gym. So he took me up, Jonathan got me into the bulk, and I struggled, and my peak weight was 139 pounds. So I went from 120 to 139, and I struggled and I resisted and I was miserable. I was saying to him, "Oh, I don't feel good." So he had a really hard time with me the
mm.
opposite way. And, he would say to me, "Go eat a donut, send me a video." So I was like, "Oh, a donut? Like, I don't want to eat a donut." So I realized then that I need to eat more I understood that
Yeah,
finally, to make the muscle grow, you need to
you
eat
need to
more.
eat more. Yeah,
So my body wasn't changing the way it needed to because I had that struggle of not eating enough with him. Had I have
yeah,
listened to him, I would have got the results faster.
right.
So I had done the bulk and then I had cut back a little bit and I got myself down to about 128. And I didn't really take the cut serious. So most people get up to the bulk and then they struggle to come back on the cut. And I was fascinated by this. It was the same fascination I had in running, the same fascination I had with the yoga. I was thinking, this is something. I was on a high. I loved being at the gym. And first of all, we will get back to this conversation, but I want people to understand it's a pleasure to go to the gym. There's so many countries
Yeah,
that can't even have that as an
have it too.
option.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have very low membership fees here, and we say, "Oh, I have to go to the gym." It's an honor for me. I don't ever look at it like that. I'm amongst these amazing human beings that are there, embettering their lives, making their own bodies healthy. We think that this is nothing. Our body is a gift. Our soul resides inside us. It's an honor to be able to go there, work out,
yeah.
and challenge myself. I never look at it like it's a chore. I love fitness.
Yeah, I always
Once
say
you
this,
have that
it's a
mindset,
privilege.
once you have that mindset, nothing will shake it. So if people haven't built that mindset, they're sometimes struggling with it. Oh, I'm tired. But as soon as you go, I've gotten to the gym so exhausted. I suffer sometimes with periodic insomnia, and this amazing place, this amazing tool has given me an energy boost.
Of
So
course.
I've gone lethargic and I've come back feeling more amazing than ever.
Yeah,
So it is a mindset that you must have. You must prioritize your health. Instead, it's like this pyramid. We've got, oh no, I need to make the money. I need to get the women or the men. I need to get married. I need to do this. On that checklist, health, where does it ever fall? It's usually at the peak, you know? If you're super healthy, mind, body, and soul, everything else will come. It'll
yeah,
just come, it'll fall in place. Even
yeah,
if you do it the opposite way, at the end of your life, I'm going to retire
yeah,
at 65. When your body fails and you aren't able to go from A to B and enjoy this beautiful gift called life, what are you doing it all for? Like, I feel like I'm aging, reverse aging.
yeah.
I've never felt so amazing. I just turned 52 October 7th, and I feel fantastic in my body. The only thing that I ever have that's soreness is workout soreness, muscle soreness. And
And that feels
why
good.
am I, and that
That feels
feels
good.
good. And why
Yeah,
am I any different than anyone else? Everyone else has this option. Obviously, if you have some health elements, that's different. You're going to have to work harder and it's much more of a struggle. The difference is everyone has this opportunity, but is everybody choosing it? Is everybody making
yeah,
it a priority? The
yeah.
difference between you and me is it is a priority in our life.
Yes,
Relationships, everything else is secondary. We must get that fitness done first and then we can move on. I'm aging, but I'm aging in such a pleasant way that it's making me feel amazing. I never dreamt that at this age I would be going into like a developing a six pack. I ran a
yeah,
marathon and I never saw my abs. I feel like this is Botox in a bottle. I feel like forget the injections, forget everything else, but I've never had a problem with like the grays or the wrinkles. I feel like this is Botox in a bottle. It has given me life. My go-to, I lost my dad. I remember losing my dad, and that whole phase was like it was during the pandemic, and yeah, I felt like spiraling. Obviously, when you lose your loved one, you're spiraling anyway. My first thing was I need to get back into the studio. I need to get to the studio. Back then I wasn't lifting, and I need to move. And it gives me so much peace and it gives me so much mental like health. It releases my stress, and I went and I did a flow, and the studio was so nice to me. They opened my friend Adriana. She used to be a manager at Y Yoga. Hi Adriana DeFazio, you are amazing. If you're listening to this podcast, I love you. She opened up the studio and I flowed, and it was so therapeutic. And any time that I've been in stress or I've had high levels of upset, my go to is I need to get to the gym. I need to lift. So it becomes something beyond aesthetics. It's like therapy. Anybody who's a solid, determined, dedicated gym goer understands exactly what I mean. It has this stereotypical thing, oh, bodybuilders are vain or they're all about just their body. The amount of discipline this sport takes is next level. I've given birth to a child. I've had a baby for 9 months. I've carried that child and given birth. My cut was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. It took me
oh,
11 months to cut, and I'm hands down that was the hardest thing that I've ever done in my life. And I enjoyed that level of discipline. I enjoyed that sort of hustle that it wasn't pleasant, it wasn't easy. Anybody who's gone through the process, they know it takes a lot of dedication. Finally, 3 years into weightlifting, I decided to cut, and my son had gone off to law school and moved away to England. And I had no distractions, and I decided that, you know what, I want to do this properly. I don't want to fool around anymore. And I decided that I would do a carnivore diet. That's what worked best for me, and that really helped. So I decided to, I was always weighing my food. I was eating whatever weight I was at, I was eating that
Yeah,
level of meat.
so coming to that, yes. So it's always said that, I mean, everyone wants those packs, right? I mean, everyone is like, I want those six pack abs. I think, couple of questions which I have for you, for our listeners and our viewers, is that, we all know what we want, but it's so important to know how we can get there, because there are people I have seen, those who want shortcuts, right? Those who are like, maybe, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's an individual preference. People go on steroids, people go on high supplementations, but I have seen you getting those results. And I think what I would like you to share is that how actually you got those results, what was
Okay.
going on in your mind, and in your
I had no intentions, actually, truthfully, of developing a six pack. What had happened was, I was working out with a member. He was more experienced, and he offered, he said, if you give me some yoga lessons, you can train with me. And he was quite experienced. So I decided to work out with him. And one of the sessions, he brought out the ab roller. And the funny thing is, I had an ab roller sitting around at my house for years. I bought it from Winners, and I remember using it with my son. And we used it once or twice, and it just collected dust here. And he brought out the ab roller, and he was rolling. And I said, "Oh, let me try." It was March 30th, I remember, of this year that I decided I'm going to try this ab roller. I could barely roll out three. And that was
Wow.
another light bulb moment. I thought to myself, why can't I do this? And I made that decision on March 30th. I'm going to master this. And because of that kind of personality that I have, that craziness, I decided I'm going to do this till I can roll. I'm not going to be like half ass. I can't just do five. I want to be the best at this.
Yeah.
So I started rolling that day, every day, 6 days a week. And I think it's very important for your listeners to understand they must educate themselves.
Consistency.
There's so much consistency too, but there's so much out there. YouTube, go to the library, grab a book, talk to somebody experienced. You need to do some of your own research. And I stumbled on Cavalier. I can't remember his first name right now.
Hmm.
I was watching a YouTube video, and it was doing some cable exercises, and he said these are the best for app development. I've done everything, and he said these. And actually, my trainer mentioned to me you should do these every day. Jonathan had mentioned that to me back in the day, and I was doing them for a while, but I stopped. And because I wasn't cutting, I really never saw the
Yeah.
abs. Everybody has abs, but in order to see them, you need to be in a deficit. You
Yeah, you
need
need to
to
have
reduce
that
your body
layer of
fat.
fat off. Yeah.
Yes, off, and you will be able to see them. The other key is developing onto the ab, like muscle
Yeah.
strength and doing those extra exercises. I don't believe conventional sit-ups work. I believe weighted sit-ups definitely help strengthen, and I could see the changes. I could see my obliques coming out. I started doing the cable exercises, the ab roller, and some roll-ups and leg raises. Those are the only four exercises I did, but I did them 6 days a week. I was zeroing in on those abs. And then I started seeing some development. And once you start seeing some results, you want to
Then you
run.
get like hooked to it. Then you're like, hey, I want to do
I
like
was
that.
talking to
Yeah.
you so many times at the gym.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
me, look at this. I'm
Yeah.
excited. And I was so excited. It was giving me adrenaline. And I tunnel vision. I shut off the noise. And the funny thing is, without trying, he didn't mean to. Even my son was saying, "Mom, what are you doing? What do you want to be, a bodybuilder?" And I was getting all these derogatory little, comments. because people just don't understand. Like, it's very unfortunate that women are, especially women, they're put into a slot that, you're in this age group, you should be doing these kind
Yeah,
of certain
yeah.
things. And here I am
Stereotype.
at, yeah, stereotype. Here I am at 40, 40. Actually, I was 51 when I started the
Yeah,
cut.
51. Yeah.
Here I'm at 51. What are you doing, Mom? Like, why do you
Making
want to
those
do
six
this?
packs, giving
Yes.
those goals to,
It
youngsters out
was,
there.
yes, it was just because of all the years of fitness, my personality, and my determination of doing something right. I wanted to do this right, so I was focused. And I shut off all of the noise. I just kind of smiled and I thought, I know what I'm going through in my body, the weight's dropping. And um, just coincidentally, my son went off to law school, and to help him, I sold my car. We both had two cars. I sold my car, and he had his car, and he had come back from first year of law school, and he was home, and me and him were arguing about the car. So I just got into this mood and said, "Keep your car. I'm going to start walking." I started walking to the gym, which was a blessing. Thank you, Samuel. He did a blessing for me because I started walking 10 to 15,000 steps a day, and that additionally helped with my cut. So I was walking, I was working out, weightlifting an hour and a half, and I was doing half an hour of ab work. So in order to do what I did, you need to be consistent. You need to
Yeah.
have that kind of workout regime. The food, that is 90%, has to be intact. Otherwise, you
And,
will
and
not get
what
those
kind of
results.
calorie intake and how much protein?
So I am going to, I want to first say, I will never advise anybody to do this because it's not something that I believe truly is healthy. I wanted to master this, and this is what you need to do in this
Yeah.
kind of industry to cut. I was in a deficit of 1,000 calories of what I do in maintenance.
Okay.
So I was eating quite low, but I personally never struggled at that. The average person would think, how the
Would
hell did you
struggle.
survive?
Yes.
Right? Would
Yes.
struggle. But from my background of my eating habits, I never struggled with eating less. I was 136 pounds.
Right.
Okay. And then in January, when I really decided that I'm going to buckle down, so I was eating, let's say, about 134 grams of protein 3 times a day. And I was doing carnivore, so it was meat only. So that isn't a lot of food. I was taking collagen, omega-3, drinking lots of water, and during my workouts, I was using 2.5 tablespoons of sugar cane with a bit of lemon to keep my glucose levels going
Okay.
during the workout. Um, Now, will this work for everybody else? I have no
Yeah,
idea.
no. Yeah.
You have
Everybody's
to
different.
kind of play
Everybody's
around
different.
with
Yeah.
what you want to do. As long as you're in a deficit, you can tweak it, you can play around with it, but the diet needs to be extremely low. I was
So were
actually
you
feeling
were you on any
fantastic.
supplementations?
Collagen, I took vitamin. I had to start taking vitamin C because I started getting tingles because I'm not eating any
Any
vegetables.
any whey
So
proteins?
I did absolutely no protein. I had to stop. I still have the jug here. It's half full. I had to
Yeah.
stop the protein because I was getting the protein from the meat, and that was enough.
And that was enough.
Before I did my photo shoot, I didn't drink water for 24 hours, and that dehydrated me. And so I mean, do you walk around with abs like that every day? No, you don't.
No.
As soon as you start drinking your water, you don't see that. You feel the development, but you don't see it as you do in a photo. So
Right.
that is partially, it's not an illusion, I wouldn't say, but that is enhanced work that you do to bring
Yeah.
out that definition.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the lighting, it's the angle, it's the fact that you're dehydrated. And obviously, if you don't have that muscle development, you're not going to see it. If you have too much fat over top, you're not going to see it. So
So
I
what
do
what will
have to
you
give myself
what will you
credit.
advise all these youngsters out there who want these six packs in a very short term
You have to work,
shortcuts?
man. No, there's no shortcuts. No, I worked at developing my abs for 6 months. And the other thing that I want to share is I do come from a fitness background, so I wasn't super heavy.
Yeah.
And so it was, I wouldn't minimize it and say it was easier. It was still quite challenging. And I wasn't quick to lose the weight. I wanted to lose 1 to 1.5 pounds every 2 weeks or so. Like I really did the weight loss slow. I didn't rush that. So I was standing on the scale, checking. I didn't care so much about the number. Like 115 was the reason why 115 was a goal because I watch MMA fighters and those women look so fit to
Yeah,
me and their weight is usually about 115. So in my head, I stuck with that. I, obviously have to look up to something you visually like that you want to work towards as a goal. And for me, that was like, I never wanted to be a bodybuilder type. I wanted to be athletic. I remember even saying that to my coach. He said, pull out a picture of what you like. I wanted to be looking athletic. So I had it in my head that I'll hit about 115. Don't focus on the number. The number is meaningless. It's how you look and feel. Once you can start seeing results in the body, you'll see that your packs are coming out, your definition is showing more. So it's never really about the number. The only reason I was using the scale every day was I wanted to see that it was decreasing.
yeah,
Because if it wasn't, I needed to do something.
something
So a
different.
couple of
Yeah,
times I did a reverse diet. So for a couple of times in the cut, I added a little bit more calories. I took a fistful of rice and ate it post workout. So I still was doing the carnivore, but post workout, I did a bit of carbs for a week, 7 days or so. And then I went back because body's smarter than you think. The body gets
yeah.
comfortable and it won't change. It's like super comfortable. It knows,
What we call
okay,
the
this is where it's
plateau.
going to sit. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
plateau. So you have to kind of shock it or shake it up and say, hey. And then thing is, when you're in not much of a deficit, it's like starvation mode. It's saying to you, okay, it's holding on to everything. So you got to shake it up. And when you give it some more food, it'll work again and it'll kickstart
yeah,
your
yeah.
weight loss again. So I did do a couple of reverse diets, and lo and behold, by accident, dedication, commitment, I did a cut, and
So,
I'm
so at the age of 52, you got
at
your
the age
six
of
pack
52.
abs,
I got my six
uh,
pack.
and then you're focused on your fitness. So how what next? What's next coming?
Next coming, I am gonna do a lean bulk, and I'm gonna do a lean bulk, and then I will consider working on a cut again exactly the way I did. And
Yeah,
never know. I might consider competing. I might consider developing another goal. I don't know. But I
awesome.
definitely want to tell other people out there, don't ever think this is not attainable. Anything you put your mind to, age is nothing. You can do it, you can master it, but it does take dedication, consistency, and a commitment. Nothing is like, there's no cheat out of this.
Yeah,
I want to definitely salute the industry. I was judgmental and I had no idea what this was about. It's a lot more work. And I'm very fascinated in how you can manipulate the body and how it's like a canvas and how you can chisel it.
yeah,
Um, don't ever get stuck in this mindset that you're too old or it's too late. There's nothing stopping you. Like the sky's the limit. And yes, you're tired, you have to go to work, but that's just something, if you want it enough, you'll find a way around it. There's gyms open 24 hours a day.
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
we have a lot more to discuss maybe in another session. But yeah, we are running out of time. But yeah, so thank you so much for taking out time and sharing all those insights with all our viewers. I think we're gonna have a couple of more sessions with you. We'll deep dive into each and every topic. I know yoga is one of them where we can get really handful insights from you. And then of course how to go through a cut and whatnot. I mean, you've got all the knowledge and information there for in terms of your experience for sure. So yeah,
And
I think
thank you too for being inspiration to me and always being helpful as a part of my journey. I appreciate you and your wisdom and experience, and you've always got my back. And if I want to ask you
absolutely.
something, you're pretty amazing. So yeah, guys, if you want to fitness trainer, he's the guy to call.
Absolutely, I appreciate the shout out here. Thank you so much. It was really pleasure talking to you. We're gonna
Best
have
of luck with your
more
podcast.
podcasts with you for sure in this season itself. But yeah, thank you so much. May God bless you with all the goals, whatever you are aspiring for, and then maybe I think next by the time you reach 55, we will have a different version of you, and we'll be having a different maybe kickboxing. You never know,
Yeah,
right?
who
I
knows?
mean,
Actually,
who
been there,
knows?
done that. I've done some
Yeah.
kickboxing.
Yeah, see, there you go, right? So yeah, thank you so much for giving us
Thank you
all
so
those
much.
goals. And
My
yeah, it was a
pleasure.
pleasure talking to you. Thank you.